So this video is going to show you kind of the Embroidery Hoops 101, everything you need to know about embroidery hoops if you're a beginner, how they work, where to find them, and then the different types of embroidery hoops you can use. Embroidery hoops come in a lot of different sizes. You'll usually find them 3-inch to 12-inch. This is a 3-inch embroidery hoop, and then this is a 10-inch embroidery hoop, so you can see the size difference. So the size of embroidery hoop that you use will be determined by the project that you're working on. So if you're looking for, or if you're working on a, like say you're embroidering the sleeve of a shirt, you would need a smaller hoop, as opposed to if you're working on something large like the back of a denim jacket, you could use a larger hoop so that your embroidery will be able to fit in it. So the majority of the time you're going to be working with wood embroidery hoops. These are the cheapest, kind of most common hoops you're going to find. They're available at like usually any craft store you go to, Hobby Lobby, Joann's, or Michael's. And they're fairly cheap. I would say you could usually find them under $2 each. This is an oval embroidery hoop. So this is a 5-inch by 9-inch hoop, which I was able to find these a lot at craft stores a couple years ago, but now when I go, I don't see them as often. So I would recommend looking online for something like this if it's what you're looking for. And I will link everything that I'm talking about below so that you'll be able to find it and shop online. So this is a metal embroidery hoop, which if you're new to embroidery, I don't think you're going to have to worry about this. They don't make metal hoops anymore, at least based like off of what I've been able to see. So this is a vintage one. It works the same way as a wood embroidery hoop. It just, obviously is metal. So instead of having a screw on the top, it has a spring. This is actually, I hardly ever use it. I just keep it because it's cool to have in my collection. So it's just like a little harder to use. So I definitely wouldn't recommend like going out and trying to find a metal hoop if you are new. So you can really only find these like online on eBay or Etsy, or if you go to a like garage sale and look for one. You can also find plastic embroidery hoops, which if you go to like a local craft store, you'll find some plastic hoops. They'll usually have a screw on top like a wooden hoop. This one doesn't. It's just like a pop in, pop out hoop. And again, I actually don't use this because I find it harder to use than the wood hoops. This hoop is actually really cool. I've only ever seen like this one. I inherited it from my grandma, but it's kind of a plastic metal hybrid. So the inner part of the embroidery hoop is metal and then the outside is plastic. It actually works really well to keep like the fabric tight. So I like using this on projects where my embroidery isn't going to stay in the hoop. So the embroidery hoop works by holding your fabric tight. So whenever you're embroidering, like technically you could just go and embroider on fabric, like hold the fabric and embroider, but it would like look like garbage. So you want the embroidery hoop to hold your fabric tight so you can embroider on it and then release the hoop when you're done. So there is an inner hoop and an outer hoop. So on these wooden embroidery hoops, it's connected by this screw that you can loosen and then tighten. So to release the inner hoop, you're going to loosen the screw and then you have your two pieces. When you're going to embroider, you want to insert your fabric on top of the inner hoop. Then you'll take your outer hoop, close it on top, and this is something, when I see people who are new to embroidery, this is the biggest thing that I see that they don't do. So they'll tighten the hoop just like this without pulling the fabric tight before they like make the screw super tight. So before you screw it really tight at the top to connect the two hoops, you want to make sure that you're pulling your fabric as tightly as possible. So one, it just like visually looks better, and two, it's gonna make your stitches tighter. So say you are working on a piece of clothing and you don't get your fabric nice and tight before you stitch. When you go to release your fabric when you're done, the stitches are gonna look messy because they weren't pulled tight enough. So yeah, this is, like you can see, there's absolutely no puckering. It's super tight, and then you would be ready to embroider. I'm going to show you just so you can see using an embroidery hoop like on something that you don't want the final product to stay in the embroidery hoop. So with this, something like this, and I hope you can see the design, after you're done embroidering, it will most likely stay in the hoop. The hoop can be used to present your pieces when you're done. And that's a big trend that people are doing now. It's like creating embroidery specifically to stay in the embroidery hoop when it's done. So this is a pair of jeans. I'm working on embroidering the butt. So to embroider on this, it's a little tricky because I don't want to accidentally embroider the pocket shut, right? I want it to be able to stay open. So I'm using a really small hoop. Again, this is that 3-inch hoop. I'm going to release the outer, put the inner hoop inside, and then I will tighten the hoop around it. So as I work, I'll continue to reposition the hoop to hold what I'm working on. That's just an example of using an embroidery hoop on clothing. So one fun thing about wood embroidery hoops is that you can kind of hack them and make them look basically however you want. So embroidery hoops will typically come in like this just natural wood color. What I've done with this hoop is I've actually stained the wood. So I just took regular wood stain that I got from Home Depot, and I used a staining sponge to just stain the outer portion. I didn't stain the inner portion because no one's ever going to see it, so you really don't have to worry about doing that unless for some reason you feel compelled to. But as you can see, like I've stained the inside and the outside of the outer wooden ring just so it gave off the right color that I was looking for. I also added these hooks so that the hoop can hang, which I'm not going to go over in this video. I'm actually going to do another video just dedicated to showing you how I created these hooks. I also forgot to mention this type of embroidery hoop earlier, but this is a plastic hoop that I got online on Etsy, which again I'll link below. I've never seen these at local craft stores, but this is just a cute, different type of embroidery hoop for displaying. I've actually seen people use these to make ornaments, and they're super cute. So if you're looking for something like that, this is a great option. But this works the same way. So you would take your fabric, put it inside the interior hoop, and then there's no screw, but it holds it really tightly. You just, stick it on. Then again, you'll want to make sure that your fabric is nice and tight. If you're looking for bulk embroidery hoops, you're like, I just need a ton of them, I would recommend the website Consumer Crafts. That is where I used to get bulk embroidery hoops when that's what I was looking for. So I'd recommend that website if that's what you are interested in. So to close your hoop back, If you are working on an embroidery hoop that you intend to stay, the design to stay in the embroidery hoop, like that's what you're looking for, you're gonna want to close your hoop back when you're done. So I'm gonna show you 2 different ways to close the hoop back. The first is by gluing. So I would recommend this process that I'm about to show you if you're working with thick fabrics like canvas or dark colored fabrics like this is a black broadcloth. So this is kind of a sneak peek. What you're gonna do is glue the back down so that the fabric is hidden. It's not, you know, out like this, and it makes it look nice and tidy from the front. So to glue your back, you want to, again, make sure before you glue it that everything is very, very tight. So then I take my glue gun. This is just like a low temperature, small glue gun that I got at the craft store. And I always start up at the top because I want this piece right here that's underneath the screw to lie as flatly as possible. So I take a small amount of glue. Actually, I think I need another stick. Okay. Okay. Take a small amount of glue, that much at a time, and then you're gonna press the fabric into that hot glue. So then I'll start here, working my way around the hoop. So the reason I recommend this for thick or dark colored fabrics is because if you're using thin fabrics and you're pushing this fabric right behind it, you're going to be able to see it from the front. Like if you're using a white linen fabric and you were to use this method, you would see that fabric being pushed against the front of your embroidery hoop. So even when you're looking at the front, you can be like, oh, I can like see that fabric. Ooh. Ouch. Okay. So then this is what it looks like from the front. Like because the canvas is so thick, you really can't see the fabric being pushed up against it. It just looks really nice and clean. So from here, you can just leave it like this if you don't mind like these stitch guts, you know, the back of your embroidery stitches to be seen. If they bother you and you want to protect them more, what you can do is cut a piece of cardstock, same size as your hoop, and then glue that on top. You could also cut a piece of fabric the same size as your embroidery hoop and glue it inside. So like you would glue here and then push that down. I personally just leave it open. I don't mind seeing the stitch guts. I feel like I worked this hard. I want them to be seen and shown. But if it bothers you, that's an option you can do. So the second sort of process I'm going to use to close the hoop back is by stitching it. So this is a linen, and I don't know if you can see with the lights, but like it's not the thickest fabric in the world. Like I can kind of see my hand through if I'm peeking through. So that would lead me to know that if I were to push this and glue it, you would be able to see the fabric from the front. So instead, I'm going to be using a large needle, and then I always try to use a embroidery floss color that's the same as my fabric, just so that it looks more cohesive. So I'll take a really nice long strand, and then I will cut it. I'm going to thread it on one side and then make a knot at the end. So I'll start, you can really just start anywhere, but I will take the fabric in one hand and then the needle in the other, and then I'll pull through. I don't know how to describe this, but I'll pull through kind of like I'm going to do a running stitch, I guess. Then I'll like grab another just random lump of fabric and then pull through again. So as I work, it kind of creates this accordion effect where the fabric is being pulled towards the center. Like this. And I didn't have an embroidery hoop that was done that needed to be closed, so I had to basically take off what I just did and then redo it to show you. So that's why it kind of, you can already tell the accordionness of it. But if it was just like regular old hoop that I haven't done this before, it would look like this, and then I would be doing the same thing. So the reason you want to cut your thread really long is so that you have enough thread to go around the entire hoop. If I say I had accidentally cut too short of a piece and then I didn't realize it until I was like to this point and then I was out of thread, you could just make a knot and then start a little ways before it, again with another knot, another piece of thread, and then just pull this way, if that makes sense. So after the stitching is done, it'll be a little poofy because of the accordionness of it all. So what I'll do is lay it flat so the front side is facing up, and then I'll like place a couple of heavy books on top so that it doesn't have that poof, that it lays flat. So I'm just gonna keep going until I use up this thread. It doesn't hurt, it just makes it, you know, even more secure. And it doesn't look like the most professional, but it's effective and it works. And depending on the way you display it, like you are never gonna see the back side, so it doesn't really matter. So once I'm done, I'm just going to create a knot at the back. Actually, I think I'm just going to do another knot just for good measure. And then I will cut. So this is what it looks like from the front. So again, you can kind of see that like poofiness. That's where I would place a book, a large book on top just to close it up. Yeah, those are the two methods I use. So I hope that this was helpful for you. If you have any questions about embroidery hoops, things you're still not sure of, make sure to leave a comment below and I will either try to answer it there, or I'm gonna start compiling all the questions for like a Q&A video. So thank you so much for watching. If you wanna check out my work, you can follow me on Instagram at threadhoney. You can also visit my website, thethreadhoney.com, where I sell patterns and kits. I also sell these super cute snake scissors if you're looking for those. But until next time, thank you. Bye.